Welcome back to RGO Photo. I'm Chris. Today we're going to pit the OG 28 to 80 USM from 1991 against the 1998 28 to 135 USM. Canon never did an update on this lens, so this is kind of a one-off, if you will, for the 28 to 135. Now the OG here has really held its own against two newer versions of 28 to 80 millimeter lenses. And so let's pit these two together and see what we can do on the test board. Actually, I do it over there, but it's mounted here for demonstration. I got to jump in here because I need to tell you two things. One, the interesting thing about this 28 to 135 is that is one of the earlier image stabilized lenses. And two, when I was shooting these out back at the fence that you'll see later in the video, I noticed one of the wood screws was oval shaped. So I knew I had some form of camera shake, and I knew it couldn't be the tripod and camera because I had the camera set on a 2-second delay and was sitting on a tripod. So then when I saw the oval shaped screw, it wasn't just soft and round, it was oval shaped. I knew I had some kind of camera movement or lens movement. Had the IS still on, so amateur mistake. I had to reshoot all of these, and what I thought was interesting was that the indoor images did not change. It was just the ones against the fence changed. So for whatever reason, at these closer focal distances, I didn't see a difference with the image stable on and being on a tripod. So thought that interesting. So anyway, let's get back to the testing. Starting at 28 millimeters, 3.5 on the apertures. That's both of their starting points. We've got the OG on the left, the 135 on the right. 135 looks like it has more barrel distortion, and the OG definitely has some heavy vignetting. So let's go in toward the center for some sharpness. I feel like the OG is sharper, but the 135 has more contrast and punchier colors. Let's go up to the corners. OG for sure there. Bottom left is a good corner for the OG. Really good corner. Yeah, not even close. Definitely OG still. Yeah. Check out the writing here. And I think the OG is just sharper in the center as well. So the OG is sharper all around. Still at 28 millimeters, OG is on the left, 135 is still on the right, and we're going to try to keep it that way. We're at 4.5 now on the aperture, and that's because I only wanted to go up 2/3 of a stop, because if you can, I would like to let in as much light as possible. We still got the barrel distortion, but it seems like the vignetting is slightly less now on the OG. Go into that center. OG is definitely sharper in the middle. Let's check the corner. Definitely sharper there. Let's check this other corner. Yeah. That one's closer, but definitely still the OG is sharper. Still at 28 millimeters, we'll go to 5.6. OG is still on the left. You can tell by the heavy vignetting still that you can see. More barrel distortion on the right by the 135 still. But let's go zoom in on the center. Oh, already playing that game. Looks like the OG is getting a little sharper, and maybe the 135 is too. Let's go check some of these corners. The OG's corner's pretty good over here. This is a good corner. The OG wins at every aperture. 3.5, 4.5, and 5.6. Although this one, I think I might have to give the bottom right corner, it's close. Real close. Maybe the bottom right corner has to go to the 135. Yeah. Go read that writing again. It's much better on the 135 now. And I think what we're lacking here is just that contrast. Look at the bird. Much better looking bird over here and there. But I think it's sharper over here on the OG. All right, we are now at 50 millimeters, 4.5, and OG is on the left. The 135 is on the right. Definitely looks like the 135 is sharper here at 4.5 in the center. Let's go that top left corner here, see what the OG. It's close. Bottom left is definitely going to the OG. That's just its good corner. Yep. Pretty close again. It's close again. The contrast here definitely makes this look sharper, and it might be sharper over here on the 135. Let's check the writing. The writing's definitely sharper over here. Got it. I think the 135's got it at 50 mils, 4.5. All right, still at 50 millimeters, but now we're at 5.6. Barrel distortion seems about gone and almost, well, I was going to say maybe almost pin cushiony over here, but I think the camera might be crooked. I don't know. Anywho, let's go to the middle here. Definitely sharper on the 135. Look at that. Was that Zen Deutsch? Definitely sharper over there. This was a close corner. I think that's sharper over here. It is a little hard to tell with the difference in color and contrast, but the center was definitely sharper. Bottom left, it's hard to beat the OG's bottom left corner. If only the whole thing was like that, that'd be pretty nice. Almost feel like a toss-up. This one's more faded, this one's more contrasty. Let's go to that writing. Definitely sharper, just sharper. Just sharper over here. Corners are too close to call. I think you got to give it to the 135. It's definitely got the best center sharpness, and the corners are close. All right, now we're at 80 mils. OG on the left, 135 on the right, and the 135 is actually at 85 millimeters. It doesn't have the exact marking for 80, so I was guessing. But interesting, the OG is much darker at 80, even though the exposure meter had the same reading. So go figure. So let's check out the sharpness here. Neither of them are doing very great, but the 135 definitely wins the center sharpness. And looks like the OG's corners here are better. That corner is almost guaranteed to be better. Yep. I think the OG's corner is better there too. Probably, yeah, I think that this one's actually clearer. Go to the writing. So it looks like the center is better on the 135, but the corners are better on the OG. So I don't know who wins that one because neither of them center or anything to write home about. All right, we're still at 80 millimeters, but now we're at f8. f8, not exactly fast. Still darker on the left here on the OG. Looks like we sharpened up a little bit on the OG, and the 135 does not look very good in the center. Yeah, the OG actually sharpened up pretty good here. Corners are decent. Yeah, the 135 is not looking good at 80 millimeters here. Interesting. Yeah, I think the OG takes 80 millimeters. You got to get that f8 though. Center's not great, but definitely better over there. All right, so now it's just the 135. We've got 5.6 over here on the left, and we've got f8, 8.0 here on the right. So let's go into the centers, see what we got. Tough to say. I almost feel like 5.6 might actually be sharper. Let's go check that corner. Tough to say. This is not the good corner on this lens. I almost feel like maybe the f8 in the corners. Definitely got the bottom right corner on f8 over here. I think this one's sharper. Seems like the corners are sharper in f8, but the center, I don't think that's sharper. Center's tough to say. I think 5.6 might have the center. Looks better here, but then the writing up here, I swear it looks better on the 5.6. Tough to say. All right, we're all the way out at 135, and we've got 5.6 on the left and 8.0 on the right. And definitely this looks sharper to me over here. Not by a ton, just a little bit. Yeah, f8 in the corners here, f8 on the right. Definitely sharper on the f8 corners. Definitely sharper. Yeah, let's go into that wording. Definitely sharper at f8. 135, f8, that's where you want to be. And even though it wasn't great, 100 at f8 as well. So then I mounted each lens to a different camera. So I put the 135 on the 6D, and I got the 28 to 80 still on the 5D Mark II. And I went outside so I could get a little longer focal distance, and not that I can go more than 135, but just have it focus on a more distant object, which is in this case a fence, so we can still see some good patterns and sharpness and whatnot. So we're going to kind of go backwards. We're at 135. We got 5.6 on the left, 8.0 on the right, and this is mounted. The 135 is mounted on the 6D. So let's go in on this knot right here and zoom in. And 5.6 on the left. It's tough to say. Tough to say. I think the f8's a bit sharper. If we're looking at the top of the fence post, it looks real blurry here. It's a little less blurry here, maybe. We'll take a look at this knot. f8 should be a little bit sharper. Maybe. Really tough to say. That's why I wanted to go out and get a little more long distance. Might change things. So F8 is on the right here. If you look at this wood screw, this is the screw that clued me into the IS being on it. This was oval as opposed to it's kind of soft right now. It was oval before. And I almost feel like 5.6 is at, it's tough to say. It might be too close to call. That's too close for me to call. Maybe in practical life, it doesn't really matter. I swear the F8 seems like it might be trying to be a little sharper in general, but it is tough to say. Tough to say. I do think that F8 might be just a skosh sharper. All right, so we're at 100 millimeters. We got 5.6 on the left, F8 on the right. Go in for that center sharpness on this knot. And I swear 5.6 looks better here. Let's go up to that screw. Check out those leaves. Man, it is tough to say. You have to really scrutinize to figure this one out. Again, I feel like F8 has this corner. F8's got the corner. This is a little softer than this. So F8 definitely has the corners. It's tough to say in the middle. Let's see if maybe, I don't know, I still feel like this 5.6 on the left might be sharper. Let's check out the bottom left here, see what we can find. I feel like the F8's a little bit sharper. Like I said, it's not great out here at 100 millimeters. I think both these lenses are giving a good show, especially considered their price point these days. I think you can get either of them for less than 150 bucks these days. So it's really not a bad deal. So here's some notes I've taken after having to shoot and reshoot those photos. At 28 millimeters, the OG here is just really good at all three apertures I tested. At 50 millimeters, 4.5, the center is great on the 135 and the corners are a toss-up between the two, so it's got to go to here. At 5.6, the 135 is just really good all around. At 80 millimeters, 5.6, the 135 is sharper in the center, but the OG's corners are better, the 28 to 80. At 80 millimeters, f8, the 135 is just not good. At 80 millimeters f8, the OG is slightly soft, but it's consistently soft across the frame. So let's say it's a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, but pretty much evenly across the frame. Or maybe we got like a 7 in the middle and 6s on the corners. Anyway, it's fairly consistent. So the 135 at 100 and 135 f8, they're okay. It seems like at 135 it's slightly better than the 100. So it seems to have soft spots down low at 28 and then 100 and 135. So it's got like that 50 to 80-ish range and maybe 35. I don't know what those in-between numbers are. But so it's better in its middle third, if you will, than it is in its lower third and its upper third. Not that it's terrible in all of those. Sometimes the corners are terrible, but anyway, you get the idea. I think the next video we need to take these out and just get some real world shots with them and see if any of these little chart tests matter at all. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button down there, and as always, thanks for watching.